Welcome to the Dating Kinky Podcast, a cast about love, sex, romance, and kink. I write and talk a lot about consent. I believe it's a foundational concept for personal autonomy. I also believe that personal autonomy is critical to personal accountability or personal responsibility. After all, if you don't have choices in life, how can you take responsibility for your actions? Seriously. And yes, I know that we always have a choice, but sometimes it really feels like people are doing their damnedest to make sure we do not, or that all of our choices are much worse than going along with whatever they want from us. And so we go along to get along and give up our autonomy and the personal responsibility to go with it. And this happens in kink, too, despite all that we talk about consent, sometimes specifically because people want to give up their personal responsibility. But can they? Getting deep enough for a Monday morning with today's topic. I'll come back to this whole thing another day. So, you want a consensual non-consent relationship. Or maybe you just want a relationship where your partner is there to help push you beyond your limits, expand your comfort zone, and share experiences with you that you would never choose for yourself, but that you would love to have with the right person. Awesome. I 100% support your desire. And I'd love to give you some suggestions for getting it right. Because to me, there are a lot of ways of getting it wrong. And getting CNC, or consensual non-consent, wrong can be at best a really fucked up situation, and at worst, pretty serious abuse and harm. And we don't want that. So I'm going to share what I know about CNC from talking to people who have lived happily in CNC relationships for 5 or more years. 1. Start with consent. Not just average consent, which is often not really consent much at all, but actual mindful consent. When getting to know each other from the first contact, practice consent. A no is always honored until the situations in which it is not honored are negotiated. More, consent is acquired for all play and all stages of play, especially sexual play and more intense parts of kink. It's about getting to know each other. 2, discussions are had about how boundaries might be pushed, when consent might be ignored, and why. These are usually done during the AAR, After Action Report. I'll put the link in the show notes. Consensual play happens as usual, and after there is a discussion about opportunities for more intense pushing and CNC. 3, values and limits are discussed from both sides. A big part of CNC is developing the trust that you both ultimately want the same sorts of things from your kink and personal lives. This is where the whole, well, would you let your master chop off a leg? Types of questions are answered with, if master decided to chop off my leg, it would be because they decided it was necessary, and I would trust them because I know who they are as a person. It seems a bit ridiculous from the outside. It's a level of trust that has been developed and made a part of their lives. 4, the top, D-type, master, McDomley pants, pays attention. This is key, a huge key. At every stage of the relationship, the ultimate authority is aware of their charges, needs, and desires. That doesn't mean that they cater to them, but that they are aware. In the book Pragmatic Thinking and Learning, one of the main takeaways for me was use rules for novices, intuition for experts. It cites studies done that show that while experts can set and create rules for novices to follow that will greatly enhance the performance of a novice, were the experts to actually follow their own rules to the letter, their productivity would drop drastically. The point I'm making here is that those who successfully create and maintain a long-term CNC relationship know the rules of consent, deeply understand their bottom, and use their experience to guide them in when breaking those rules work best to get the feelings they as a couple wish to experience. And they never stop paying attention, digging, mining for more information, learning new ways to create experiences and feelings. They endeavor to embody the word master in all of its meanings. 5. There is space set aside to step out of the relationship dynamics for frank talk and feedback. Not all of the successful relationships I spoke to had this. All but one did in some form. A way to even the playing field to engage as humans about feelings and needs and how things are going. More of the AAR, for example. And in all of the other CNC relationships that do this, it was insisted upon by the ultimate authority as part of how we do this. Don't start without laying the foundation. I do believe there are people out there who start without laying the foundation and who make it work. If you're in a couple like this, please do comment and speak up. However, as I like to say, it's possible, not probable. I've engaged with more than 50, possibly over 100 people who rushed a CNC relationship and found deep trauma and harm as a result over the long run. They didn't develop the connection and understanding that allowed the relationship to grow safely into that realm. And interestingly, many might assume that only the S-type or bottom might be harmed in this. They would be wrong. Many D-types are also harmed. They do what they have been given the authority to do and find deep guilt and even sometimes feelings of betrayal when it doesn't work out, or are even accused of things that they never saw coming. In the end, if you want a relationship where you have agreed that certain things can or should be pushed past, those relationships are best developed carefully, with consent, until you leave that consent behind. Because otherwise, pushing past a no too early, even if good things come of the push, can ultimately create harm from not accepting the no. What are your thoughts? CNC, consensual non-consent. Yes? No? Maybe? Why or why not? Do you have experience with it that you could share? And do you have any additional thoughts or suggestions on what makes CNC work, or what is likely, in your experience, to make it fail? Thank you for joining me today. If you love this episode, please share it with others who would enjoy it. And please do join me on our new apps available in the Google Play and Apple App Stores. Dating Kinky, it's built by Kinksters for Kinksters, poly, queer, trans folk, and anyone not quite vanilla, and it's free. Find me on FetLife as Nookie Notes, and on Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and Medium as Dating Kinky. We're on Instagram as Dating Kinky Official, all one word. Also, find me on the new Moan app in beta for iPhone. I'm Miss Nookie there. TheMonapp.com. Have a kinky day, and I'll catch you next episode.